Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living. We're a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. And Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. Our promise here is to reveal, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. We acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands and waters of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. In a similar fashion, we acknowledge how much of what we know in this country today, including its culture, economic growth and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their descendants who suffered the horrors of transatlantic trafficking, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to their labors and sacrifices, and we must acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and resulting impacts that can still be felt and witnessed today. So please join us for our opening song, Woke Up This Morning. And you can see that it's up on the screen or up on the wall, depending where you are and what you're looking at. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Well, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Well, I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I keep my mind. I keep Good morning. This is and welcome to March. Beautiful, sunny first day of March. Love it. This is a time that we set aside each Sunday to give ourselves and allow ourselves to relax, to become at ease, allow ourselves to just be in the present moment. Be right wherever you are. And so I just want to invite us to, we're going to first of all, backtrack. First of all, I just want to invite you to get comfortable as you can get. You might have to squirm a little bit or get a pillow or whatever, and just allow yourself to be comfortable. And releasing all that has come before this moment.
any worries, any woes, any bills, any frustrations, anything that will interfere with your coming to center yourself. So I just invite us to take in, we're going to take in 3 nice deep breaths. And you can release them audibly if you like. To me, it's more powerful that way. So let's take a nice deep breath in and hold it and release. Nice deep breath in, holding it and release. One more. Allowing your diaphragm to expand as far as it can. Deep breath in and release. So this month, the theme for the month is what if? And so today I just want to invite us to imagine. Imagine. We have a fantastic mind. Our mind is so powerful, so creative. And that power of imagination is so great within us. So I just invite us to be still and to invite that imagination in and ask, what if? And you can add whatever behind that you want. What if there was world peace? What if money was no problem? What if everyone could love each other? You can ask any question you want, add that onto it. What if? What if? What if? So I invite you this week to carry that little question with you. When something gets tough, there's a challenge, you can ask yourself, what if this was easy? What if? And so with that, I'd like to invite you to wiggle your toes, your fingers if you need to, a little neck swivel, and open your eyes and come back to the room. And so it is. Now we shall do Did we do this 3 times? Ooh, that's a big one. Excuse me. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. And so that is. Okay, reading today comes from the Science of Mind. I don't have that here. Perhaps the most difficult thing for us to perceive is that there is one life running through everything, one presence manifesting everything, and one person individualized through everyone. The perception of unity sees through all differences to one universal sameness. But unity does not mean uniformity. We do not all have to be alike, to think alike, to act alike, but the world is learning that we must all act in unison. The infinite one manifests in infinite variations, each rooted in the one, but each divinely unique in its own right. Good, bad, high, low, across, above, and beneath are all one to the infinite mind. Today I seek my union with life. Today my imagination reaches back through all differences to universal sameness. Today I know that I am in spirit. Spirit is in me. We are one. Today, as never before, I shall seek a sense to sense this divine union of the soul with its source and all people with the infinite. If we would come to the universal wholeness, we must approach it through the law of its own nature. This means that we must give our undivided attention to the spiritual unity back of all things. And so it is.
Now, this song comes from a movie with which some of you may be familiar, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And it was done originally by Gene Wilder, but this is a version by Josh Groban. So the talk title is A World of Pure Imagination, which is why I selected the song, because it's also a song that we can go back to. In it, in that particular version, we started back screen. And when you go to a theatrical performance, You don't know what's going to happen, but all of the people backstage have practiced for how long? Your son is a performer. He doesn't just get out there and do it without any practice. He's had to spend time and energy learning pieces. But when he performs, nobody knows all of the beautiful work and imagination that he put into learning those songs, that he put into learning those pieces. So much of what we experience in the world is the result of our imaginations. When we were little, did any one of us not use our imaginations to play? Now, I remember always using my imagination, and my imagination put me in directions that were really not all that much like other little boys. I was always playing house. I was always playing with dolls. I was disturbing to my parents because they were thinking, what is wrong with this kid? But that's where my imagination took me. And imagination takes so many people in so many different places. We've talked before about Thomas Edison imagining light that didn't require going out with a fire stick every night, going up and down the streets to light the streets so that they were illuminated. And just because he had this idea that there was something different doesn't mean that it was easy. We've heard how he tried and he failed 999 times before he finally found the right way. Our imagination doesn't mean that we're going to get it like that. Our imagination is the inspiration. It's the guidance that fills us. One of the things that Ernest Holmes, the founder of the science of mind philosophy and teaching, brought forward is the idea that prayer can make powerful changes in the world. That it isn't just about, hey, God, can you please make this happen? Ernest Holmes proposed the idea that prayer is a way through which we open ourselves to the power of the universe. That we lift ourselves up to our highest and best imaginations. When we're coming up with what we're praying for, we might start with what it is that's going on, what's going on in our lives. We've had spiritual mind treatment sessions, special services where we've prayed about something that we want changed. We know what's going on in our world. I mean, yesterday, our country struck out against Iran. And as Jeffrey was saying, it was kind of a different way of approaching international conflict, at least according to our constitutional system that we have. And lots of people have imagined that it could have been done differently and that going forward, we can do it differently. Again, I don't know about all of you, but I know that when I was a little kid, I faced a fair amount of bullying for a long time. And I'm talking through the age of 8th grade. So I went to a school from 1st grade to 8th grade. I was the smallest boy in the class. And I don't know if you've seen movies or stuff where the house with the clock in the wall has a boy who is a nephew of a man who promises to take care of him. And when it's time to pick sides, he is not selected. They're like, we just don't want him. And that was my experience. When we were playing team games, the teams would pick, and then they start playing, and I'd still be on the side waiting to be picked. But I had an imagination that I didn't have to be part of that game. I didn't have to be doing that. I had an imagination that let me go somewhere else, that said, I don't have to be named or qualified or created by what those other people are saying. Now, Ernest Holmes proposed, you exist so that divine feeling, fire, imagination, and creativity may be expressed through you. Spirit comes to you with a new and fresh creativity. So instead of feeling like, oh, I didn't get picked, I was always excited. That meant I could play in the little small little wooded area, and I could talk with the wind. And I could imagine the trees talking back. And again, I was a 7th grader. I was an 8th grader. But that imagination wasn't all that far away from what happened in Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. We have lots of stories that are created by very creative people. We have a creative author in our midst. Victor Evans, Dr. Victor Evans, is an author. And he has brought forward some of his own life experiences and changed them so that hundreds and thousands of people can have themselves lifted up. That has happened because Victor kept his imagination turned on, turned up. Victor didn't say, I'm not going to step into imagination because that's childlike or childish. I am going to use my imagination to bring change to the world. And that's one of the things that Ernest Holmes proposed. It's through the power of our imagination that we can imagine a different world. The Science of Mind organization, Centers for Spiritual Living, identifies the possibility, creating a world that works for everyone. Now, I don't know about you, but that's very exciting to me. I go to work every day because I might have the chance, when I work with a student or when I work with a family or when I work with a teacher, to be able to have something different happen for them at their school experience. School hasn't necessarily been a positive experience, but I'm imagining that it can be. Now, if I just say it's only going to be more and more of the same old crap, then I'm not contributing anything. I'm stuck in that same grounding of hopelessness and despair and giving up that's been going on. Now, my invitation later on is for us to take time in our life work to think about, where do I let my imagination spark me? Am I coming from a place of fear? Oh my gosh, we're starting another war. This is going to be terrible. We're going to have a war that lasts for 30 years. Or are we like, oh, but we have a different group of people in charge who are going to say, let's do something different. And am I going to be one of the people that's contributing to their confidence about doing something different? So I'm leaning in to that notion of creating a world that works for everyone. I think that's a very worthwhile goal that Centers for Spiritual Living has said, yes, we are going to stand for that among the other things that we stand for. And, other talks we'll look into some of the other things that the Centers for Spiritual Living are pursuing. That's just the one that's most pertinent today. To make a world that works for everyone Don't we have to bring forward our best selves? Don't we have to bring forward our best imaginations about how the world that can work for everyone is working for everyone? When it's not working for everyone, one of the things that I've learned with the anti-racist work that I do at Seattle School District is you have to call it out. You have to name it. You can't just blatherly, oh, that's happening. That's disturbing. You have to name it, and you have to see how each of us are contributing to it. An author, Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, said, we have to be able to build a world that doesn't even exist yet. That's a different imagination. What if we all tapped in to a different, loving, transformational, new imagination? What if we all join our imaginations together to create a world that can work for everyone? So I'm going to offer 3 different ways we can do it. And then I'm also going to offer some life work, things that we can practice during our week. And we can say yes or no, I'm going to do that, or I don't want to do that. Or if I don't want to do it, then what's blocking me from wanting to do it? So the first thing we're going to be looking at, 3 things again, is the notion that things like meditation, affirmations, prayer, proclaiming something new and different are not simply nice things to do, but they're blueprints for creating a new world. To stop and meditate. And that doesn't mean you are going deep into changing your brain waves and you are getting that you are completely still in a dark room. You could be driving along and you can come to a roadblock. You can come to a backup of cars. Instead of getting locked and trapped into the notion of, oh my gosh, I won't get to where I'm going on time. People are going to be upset. I'm going to be upset. That kind of energy that we put into the room, do we think that that's benefiting the universe? If we stop and think about it, is our being angsted up? I'm not sure what the right way to say it is, but do we think that being so worried out about that moment is making the world a bigger, better place that works for everyone? We can choose. We come to that roadblock and we can just say, I am right where I need to be. Instead of being all like, look at you, you cut me off. You know that feeling. You know that criticism of that person who just drove past you in the parking lane and they're driving along and they're going to bump in earlier. But you know what? Oftentimes, that same person who went zooming by us is ending up going to be like 2 cars ahead of us. And all of the energy that we spent on that. What if we were to redirect ourselves into our meditation, just thinking, stopping, breathing, just pausing, that when we see the red lights, I'm going to stop and I'm going to take a deep breath, like Jeffrey is with his yawn. That we can use anything as an opening. And affirmation is just declaring something different. Oh my God, I won't get there on time. I will get there when I need to get there. I am arriving at the perfect time. I am on the perfect path. How does it feel when we make that declaration versus, oh my God, I won't make it on time? When we tell ourselves with our affirmation what it is we truly want, when we lean into our imagination what is it that I'm longing for? What is it that the world is longing for? We have the opportunity to create a world that works better for us and a world that works better for others. Because if we're in our car smiling, someone might look at us and think, what's the matter with that person? But we have at least raised that question. We've at least given someone else a chance to pause and think, what is going on that that person is smiling and looks so peaceful? Ooh, that's troubling. Yes, yes, we can be about causing that kind of trouble. So our meditation, our affirmations, and our prayer are blueprints for the possible world that we're looking for. They're not simply short-term fixes to feel better. They are long-term solutions to creating the world that we want to have, the cosmos that we want to be contributing to. Now, the second thing I want us to think about is, did anybody wake up today and not have any technology in their life? I mean, I live in a house where if I don't turn the lights on, the room is going to stay dark. I don't have sunlight that comes into the room. I have to turn on the light. And that depends on technology. Now, like I said, Thomas Edison is a person that we can kind of go back to and say, thank you, Thomas Edison. I'm grateful. So we are daily using all kinds of technology. Many mornings I shave. Now, I didn't make my razor myself. I went and got it at a store, and a store got it from a producer, and a producer generated it from somebody who originally invented it. If we stop and think about what it is that we're doing, did anybody go to their refrigerator this morning? Did anybody heat or toast or make something change how something was? I know that Michael used the toaster. I know that Michael used his coffee maker. We have a machine back here, which makes hot water instead of just cold water. You know, because if you take cold water and add coffee, it takes a little longer for it to dissolve. Technology is something that we are using all the time. And are we considering and being grateful for that technology? I realized I didn't pin myself. With our everyday use of technology, we can be deliberately grateful. Now, there's a lot of conversation about artificial intelligence. You know, there's a company that has said, we don't know if we want to be involved with the Department of War. That's what our president wants to call it, our Department of War, because we want to be ensuring that the artificial intelligence that we're using is promoting well-being. I'm kind of inspired that there's a person who is thinking about AI as something that can be promoting well-being. We can keep having AI do what manufacturing and commerce have done, which is, how do I make rich people richer? How do I make people that have a lot of stuff have more stuff? How do I redistribute wealth away from people who have less and back to people who have more? We know that that's been happening. I'm not saying something miraculous or new. This is something that we all know about. But what if we are calling for and demanding that the systems that we're involved in are doing what it is that we want individually. So if we want a world that works for everyone, how do we look for those companies and those inventors and those people who have a similar notion? What if we were asking the questions, how much is this AI moving us towards the world that we want? How much are we deliberately directing our imagination towards that better world rather than a world that continues to build on injustices? Rather than a world that continues to just gloss over past harms. There are algorithms behind AI. What if we were asking that those algorithms started to include a world that works for everybody rather than a world that promotes the financial well-being of a select few? Now, the third piece that I'm going to propose, because the technology, that's pretty much in everyone's day. I don't know too many people who get through their day without technology. The third pursuit with respect to imagination is using our imagination for liberation. In the story of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, a person had a chocolate factory which was closed off, and it was opened up to 6 children. Liberation is about opening up. So there are lots of stories that lean into liberation. We have lots of stories that we can look to. I mean, 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. A bunch of dudes got together in Philadelphia and signed the Declaration of Independence. And we have told that story for 250 years. And we have told that story with a level of, look at what our country did. Aren't we great? Isn't that fabulous that we had those people? We don't have to have our story of liberation be about those limited dudes who got together in Philadelphia. If anyone's ever heard of the musical Hamilton, Hamilton, the story unfolds because there were so many people involved in his life. How many people are involved in our lives for pursuing liberation, to become a little bit more free than we were before? Now, I experience anxiety. I actually take a medicine to help with my anxiety. I say that because we have the technology that we don't have to be trapped and limited by what we are. I think I've also shared that I have diabetes. 150 years ago, someone had diabetes and they were dead pretty soon after. I live in a time that's remarkable because when I was a kid and became a teenager, my doctor said, "Oh, you're going to be blind on dialysis before you're 25." Liberty has meant for me that I didn't have to follow that story. Who hasn't had a story setting limits on us? Who hasn't had somebody negating us or telling us what we could or could not do? We are in a time where leadership in this country is really about limiting what is possible, saying what can be done and what will be done and what won't be done. And yet we have people all over this country and into other countries that are like, I don't really like how ICE is operating. I don't really like that you say that this is what's going to happen. And we're saying, no, it's not. There's been these attempts. Michael and I watch the Rachel Maddow show when it comes out on Mondays. And Rachel Maddow has been talking about how the current president and his fabulous cabinet have been wanting to create giant prisons, giant concentration camps. And you know what? The people in those towns are like, not here. We don't want it. They are expressing and leaning into liberty rather than leading into enslavement, rather than leading into repetition of what we did to Japanese Americans when World War II happened. We as a country went in and corralled people up, same as what we did with people of color. Oh no, you can't live there. We have rules against where you can buy a house. We have a deep, dark history of taking away freedoms. But we also have people who are enthusiastic about liberation. We can use our imagination to respond to threats. We don't have to simply say, oh, that's how it is. I guess we're stuck with that. Hooke said, imagination is one of the most powerful tools for liberation. So, what I want us to remember in conclusion is that our imaginations are incredibly powerful. The trick is, are we using it? Are we using it deliberately? Are we using it in response to these challenges that come up to us? Or are we stuck thinking, oh, imagination, that's for little kids? Has anybody watched television this past week? Has anybody watched anything on YouTube this past week? Has anybody watched anything? So if anybody watched anything, there was some imagination that was at play there. We don't look at that and say, oh, isn't that terrible? They use their imagination. Those actors use their imagination to imagine being a different person. I mean, the really good actors, we're like, wow, that really felt real. The thing is that stories are real. Stories connect us to what's authentic. Our imaginations connect us to what is possible. And it's that thin line. I mean, when Star Trek came out, it was really cool. And there are so many things from Star Trek that we just use today. I mean, we have cell phones that fit in our pockets. You know, they had their little pins, but their pins always got taken. If you could put it in your pocket, then it wasn't going to be quite as vulnerable. We have all kinds of things that have been presented in stories as imagination, and yet they are real today. So much of what we experience in the world comes from our imagination. When the earliest human beings sat around fires, they told stories. They told stories about the past, but they also still told stories about a possible future. We have been telling stories about possibilities for as long as we've existed. So, what I'm going to propose are some things that we can do this week. So, one of the things that we can try on for life work is just journal and ask, where have I been letting my imagination keep me stuck in the past, stuck in what I don't like, stuck in what really irritates me? And then, where might I begin to imagine from places of love, from wholeness, from possibilities? So write about it. Take time. As we're writing, we might want to reflect on systems or stories or assumptions that we've all held. Oh, I work at this place and it's really bad. Okay, I work in a place that's really bad. Sometimes that's what I feel about the Seattle public schools. They're not doing everything they can do for kids. Okay, they're not. How do I do everything I can do for this child in front of me? Rather than being like, look at the district, it sucks. How do I be a place in the district where a person's able to say, that person offered me help. That person listened to me. That person took what I had to say and tried to make a difference. There is this Holmes quote, and I'll take some time to say it. So if you want, you can write it down. Michael will also put it out, and I'll put it out in my thing. But when we use our creative imagination, in strong faith, it will create for us. What if we just meditate on that idea? So those are some writing things we can do. Another thing is that we can give our imagination a sacred assignment. So a sacred assignment, choose one area in the world that we're not happy with. So if you're not thrilled about the United States bombing Iran, what can I do? If we're not thrilled about homelessness in Seattle, Washington, what can I do? Just ask the question. And our imaginations can fill us with all kinds of ideas and possibilities. It might lead us to writing a letter to a representative. It might lead us to participating in some event. It might lead us to support some local or state or national or international organization. I don't know, because each one of us has our own imaginations that can guide us. And then the last thing that I'm going to propose for life work this week is, during the day, being deliberate to pause and ask, am I creating from fear or from faith? Am I creating from fear or faith? Because our imagination will respond to our fears. Most horror movies count on that. But most movies of hope also counting on being able to the imagination coming from hope. So I have a affirmation for us, and Michael is going to share that. So if you can see it, say it with me 3 times. I contribute to the power of collective imagination. I contribute to the power of collective imagination. I contribute to the power of collective imagination. And so it is. And thank you this week for being here on YouTube and joining us. I hope that this has been useful, and have a great week.
Thank you, Reverend Vaughan. Life would be pretty boring if we didn't have an imagination. I mean, what would there be if there was no imagination? There wouldn't, yeah, no technology. Although there's certain things that might be good. You know, like we might be able to have more conversation instead of focused on the TV or phones, whatever. But anyway, oh, am I still pinned on here? Oh, no, we must remove pin. Go away there, much better. So thank you, everyone. Oh, thank you again for reminding me to shut this off. Here we go.